achieved.
Geez, 2017 is now officially behind us. We were working on the first show of 2018, and we'll get to that momentarily. But, you know, 2017 was an interesting year. A lot of good things happened, both for me MMA related and non-MMA related, so that was interesting. Definitely some life-changing events. But, yeah, it's 2017 is behind us. 2018 lays in front of us. We'll see how that plays out. And I know everybody likes to make resolutions. I didn't actually make any resolutions in my personal life. But I'm going to come up with a trio of resolutions I'm going to make as far as my predictions are concerned and my show is concerned. So here we go. Number one, I'm going to take less risks in my bet packs. I'm going to try and grind it out a little bit more and take a little fewer risks. No, don't spread myself as thin and see what we can come up with. As one of my newer to the show listeners has routinely commented, I haven't done so shit hot recently, at least in their opinion. But they're one of my more harsher critics, if you will. So, yeah, I'll do my best to try and hunker down, not take quite as many risks and see what we can come up with. I'm also, as far as predictions are concerned, I'm going to go with my instincts. When you've been predicting as long as I have, which is now going on 8 years, you have a predisposition of fighters. And sometimes you're predicting fighters that you've predicted 12, 15 times each. And you look at that fight before you even break it down, you go, I know who's winning that matchup. And then all of a sudden you get into that fight, and the way the footage you're looking at and the research you're doing is not leaning towards the fighter you initially went with. And even though my initial thought was this fighter's going to win, my instincts are telling me, no, everything you're seeing is indicating this fighter has a much better chance to come away with the victory, even though that wasn't your initial thought. And a lot of times I tend to not go with my instincts there. I tend to go with what I feel should happen. And I know this kind of doesn't make a ton of sense, but either way, I'm going to start going with my instincts more often than not, and we'll see what that comes up with. My third and final resolution, I'm going to hit 300 wins this year. I've never had 300 wins in a calendar year. Of course, the most, again, I ever picked up was back in 2014. I had 299 wins. In 2017, I finished with 283 victories, which isn't horrible. It's not amazing. It's the third highest total I've had since 2013. I haven't gone back into the records for the years prior. There won't be that high simply because I didn't predict that many fights back then. I stuck mainly to the main card. So yeah, we'll try and see how far we can go with those three resolutions. But 2018 should be a very interesting year. I'm 100% winning percentage rate. Now we'll see how long that lasts heading into this first event of the season. And speaking of that first event, welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. Always, I am your host, Scott Johnson, and on this episode of the show, we are breaking in the upcoming UFC Fight Night 124, which will take place in St. Louis, Missouri, or Missouri, depending on who you are. And it'll feature 4 main card fights, which I'll be giving predictions for. On this show, all of my preliminary picks, and I believe there are 9 of them. Yeah, there's 9 prelims. Wow. Will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net, so please check them out. The bet packs will also be available. If you want to subscribe for the first 2 months of the year, you will save yourself $30 to $40. I haven't set the number yet, but it's certainly worth saving that cash if you want to invest, or you can go show by show for $15. It's entirely up to you. But again, I am very fortunate to have a loyal troop of followers who are purchasing my bet packs, and they recognize it's a grind. You don't win shows. Sometimes you have terrible shows, but it's the big shows that really produce and pay off, so I appreciate that. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at KO_predictions. You can follow me on Facebook as well. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, yada, 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 all that stuff. If you're a long-time listener, which many of you are, you will know this by now. I apologize for the lateness getting the show out. Took a little bit to get things going. And on that note, let's get to the first prediction of the night. Fight number 1 of the main card takes place in the UFC's welterweight division as the streaking 10th-ranked Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare, he's affectionately known to his friends and family, 11 wins and 1 loss, takes on the Norwegian Emil Valhalla Meek, and it does look like Meek, but apparently it is pronounced Meek, so we'll go with that until told otherwise. His current record sits at 9 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, and a single no contest. Now for Usman, he continues to look for that big fight versus a ranked opponent, and he's not getting it. I think a lot of fighters are concerned about fighting. He's one of these young welterweights on the rise. There's a nice crop of them with Darren Till, Ponzinibbio, who else is in that crop. Mike Perry certainly working around there. Colby Covington, RDA working his way up as well. So a lot of interesting welterweight challengers moving up and pushing the old guard down. Usman comes in with a record of 6 wins and no loss in the UFC, including a KO over Sergio Moraes in his last fight, which is damn impressive. For Meek, he's 1-0 in the UFC. He has won 4 in a row overall, though, and he stopped Usman Palhares, which was damn impressive, knocking him out in 40 seconds. Palhares, of course, notoriously known for his leg locks and holding them way too fucking long. Meek is coming off a 13-month layoff. He's had some issues trying to get clean, apparently. Taking some supplements or something, I don't know exactly, that he felt would not exactly jive with USADA, so he took some time off to get things straightened out. For Usman, he's 1 inch taller, over 2 inch reach advantage, but Meek is the younger fighter by a single year. Now look at Usman first. It's hard not to look at his takedowns in his wrestling. 4.07 takedowns per fight at a 50% completion rate, which is damn impressive. He shoots twice, you're on your butt at least one of those 2 times. He has never been taken down in his UFC career, and he has taken down every opponent until the Moraes fight, where he finished him relatively quickly and didn't need to put him on his back. Now, we have seen a little bit of a shift in Usman's approach. Less reliance on takedowns over his last couple of fights. Over his first 3 UFC victories, 17 combined takedowns. Over his last 3, just 3. So he's certainly working to round out his striking. When he is looking to clinch up and be physical, he likes to use that clinch fight and takedowns simply to break down his opponent and use that ground and pound to really wear on them. And we saw against Hader Hassan, he used that ground and pound and to break him down and eventually set up the arm triangle choke for the finish. He has lots of different takedown techniques. He can get takedowns from the clinch, single or double leg from the outside. Look for him to work trips as well. Once on top, he has strong top control, hard strikes, constantly throwing punches, and just it's very difficult for his opponent to defend against, not get hold the position, not get beaten up too much, and carries weight the entire time. He just outworks and overwhelms guys. His striking is a work in progress. He uses short punches, works elbows in as well. He'll use knees in the clinch. We have seen him fake takedowns and throw strikes. He showed that power against Moraes. It's certainly coming along. He throws a decent left jab. He will dip down and wing some overhand rights as well. A little bit too much wind-up, but again, that will tighten up and disappear as he gets a little bit more confident in his striking. Better when he fights compact, when he's not throwing those big looping strikes. He's far better when he fights on the inside and keeps things relatively tight. The nice thing is he keeps his opponent backing up, puts pressure on them, and again, the threat of that takedown makes his fight, makes openings for him to attack with his striking. His opponents are constantly dropping their guard, looking to defend the shot, and then boom, there's opportunities right there to crack him. Now for Meek, he got his UFC entry up for knocking out Usman Palhares. He has 7 wins by knockout, and again, a lot of people look at that and go, that's the biggest thing he's done prior to beating Jordan Meehan in his debut. Is that enough to get you into the UFC? Well, apparently it was. Either way, we'll see how he fares here. He tends to throw a lot of single strikes at times. He'll dip his head when he throws. He throws a left jab. That's my text message going off. We'll ignore that. Throws an overhand right as well. He's got some hard low kicks he'll mix in. Look for him to land some knees in the clinch once they get in that position. If he can establish physical control and control over Usman's body, he will pull his opponent's head down to maximize the impact there. When he fought Jordan Meehan, he had him backing up. He likes to brawl. He likes to mix it up. He hurt him with some flurries along the cage, and that was when he was doing his best. Now, he does have a tendency to slow down. Again, that brawling nature will draw that out in you. He has been TKO'd twice, and because he opens himself up to take damage when he's exchanging, that's not surprising. Early in that matchup against Jordan Meehan, he was taken down a couple of times, put on his back, spent some time there. He didn't really find success against the Canadian in that fight until Meehan started slowing down. I don't think that's going to be the case here. Usman has showed how hard he hits and is improving striking attack. Meek doesn't doesn't want to take too many shots from a guy like Kamaru Usman. Even if he's not a great technical striker, he still has a lot of power. But again, Meek would probably benefit from turning this fight into a brawl and really mixing it up. I think ultimately Usman can use his wrestling here if he wants to score takedowns. I apologize. Grind this fight out, use that ground and pound. Sorry about that. To find some type of submission or TKO finish, and my prediction is Kamaru Usman to defeat Emil Meek by TKO. Our second main card fight takes place in the newly minted and certainly quickly expanding women's strawweight division as 12-gauge Paige VanZant, 7-3-0, takes on the 10th-ranked fighter in the division, Jessica Rose Clark of Australia, the current record of 8 wins, 4 losses, and 1 no contest. Now, Paige is making her divisional debut. She felt cutting, and we saw the footage of her there it goes again. Cutting to strawweight was simply taking a toll on her way too much. So this makes a lot of sense for her to make that jump. She had been tied in with a fight with Jessica Eye, but that fight fell through, so here she gets to finally get into the division and mix things up. I would think the UFC wants to push her for an eventual opportunity to title shot. She's a very marketable fighter, much more marketable than the champion. She's known to UFC fans, and I think that's something that they definitely would be looking into. Now, for Jessica Rose Clark, she took a split decision over Beck Rollins in her divisional debut and her UFC debut. She took it on short notice, which is very impressive. I correctly predicted that fight. I actually predicted it to end via split decision. I had a very good feeling about that fight, so I really was, pat on the back for that matchup. She's fought some decent names. She also fought Sarah Coffin, who she lost a decision to, and she wanted a split decision over Karina Dahm, fighting in Legacy, I believe. Physically, Clark 1 inch taller, 1 inch reach advantage for Paige. Paige is also 7 years younger than Jessica, and Jessica, she's had issues making weight in the past, which is worth noting. She did make weight in her last fight. Paige, on the other hand, has been out of action for 13 months with the eye fight coming off the books. Rose Clark took her last fight on 2 weeks' notice, as I mentioned, and she's done it before, and I like that mentality. I like a fighter who will say, fuck it, let's get in there and mix it up and see who comes out on top, and 2 weeks is not a lot of time to prepare for a fight, and she's done it a couple of times and had good results. Now, a couple of things that stand out to me. She is 4-4 in fights that go the distance. And 3 of her last 4 decisions have come down to splits, meaning one judge felt she did enough, another judge felt her opponent did enough, and then the third one went one way or the other. She has a 2-1 record in those fights, but still, there's definitely some issues there. And she's had trouble against better competition. She went 0-2 in Invicta, losing both fights in the scorecards. And, the Beck Rollins one was a huge victory, but Beck hasn't really been lighting the world on fire of late either. Now, looking at what Jessica Rose Clark does in the cage, that's a different story. She does a lot of good things. She has a good stance, hands up, does a good job to keep those hands up so she can parry punches and shell up when under attack. Solid foot positioning. She'll slide in and out very effectively. I love the way she throws fates and fakes to really throw off her opponent's timing. She varies her attack. You look for her to fake a jab or fake a knee strike and then come with another technique, throw that a big right hand. She just leads with different techniques and makes her opponent constantly guess what is coming next. She has a nice left jab, power in her right hand. She'll throw a counter left hook as well, and she's got some pretty hard low kicks. She did a lot of damage in her victory over Dam and Rawlings as well. There was some bruises on Rawlings' leg when she was attacking those with the low kicks, and they were certainly doing damage. Defensively on the mat, she showed some decent grappling defense, stayed vertical for the most part. Dam did have success taking her down. She was taken out of a low kick by Beck Rollins, but we saw her actually sweep and counter in a top position where she actually held that top position for a prolonged period of time. At times, she was getting backed up by Beck Rollins a little bit, but moving well laterally to try and avoid it. Beck had some success clinching up with her, but Clark showed some good balance, stayed vertical, and she lands some fucking good knees in the clinch. And I saw her, it's just a very nice transitional sequence. She landed a brutal knee. She really framed Beck and then drove a knee into her midsection, and then boom, right into a takedown, right into mount, and then right went for an arm triangle choke. Didn't get it, but just a sequence that was really impressive. Striking, clinching, striking, takedown, submission, boom. Very impressive. Now, looking at Paige, she has a relentless pace. And that's one of the things that's defining about her is how her aggressive nature. She keeps pushing, keeps working. She does a lot of work in the clinch and looks to overwhelm and exhaust her opposition. Or at least that's what she's done in the majority of her fights when she's having success. She'll throw knees and elbows in the clinch, punches as well, look for takedowns. She likes that headlock takedown, which is one of those ill-advised techniques that you see a lot more in women's mixed martial arts. It just seems like a technique that they like to go to. But a lot of times it's a positional detriment. You'll see a lot of women go for this technique, and boom, what they're actually doing is they're going to the ground and they're putting their opponent on their back. And she's had issues with getting her back taken. She can work herself out of bad positions and then go to work unloading with volume to get it back, but still you don't want to do it too often because she can get in trouble. And we've seen her get submitted, get finished, get beaten up on the ground, and a lot of that could be because she's giving up some positional control. She did struggle when she fought Beck Rollins, and Beck is being highlighted here because both girls have fought her. When she fought Beck, obviously it was 115 pounds, but she had a lot of trouble controlling Rollins in the clinch. Beck's a bigger girl, stayed on the outside. Beck's a bigger girl, and that probably was an issue there. What we did see Paige VanZant do in that fight, she stayed on the outside, used a lot of movement, bouncing around, looking for openings to engage. Now, she was getting cracked with flurries from Beck, but at times she just had issues closing the distance and finding her opportunities to attack. Now, she did land a front kick down the middle, and the jumping front kick actually that dropped back in the second round. I felt Rawlings won the opening round in that matchup, but obviously Paige rallied and took her out. You have to wonder in this fight, I like Paige. She's not a complete fighter. She got to push because of how she looks. Dancing with the Stars is the big issue as well. How will that layoff affect her? How will the lack of a cut to 115 pounds affect her as well? For Clark, she's got a full camp coming into this matchup. She's not fighting in Australia, though, where she's from, which can be an issue and has been an issue for fighters in the past. You know, Paige needs to clinch this fight, land takedowns, overwhelm Clark with volume and pace. I think Clark's the better striker, without a doubt. I think she could be a little bit stronger than Paige. I think she'll make Paige hesitate by changing up her offense and varying what she shows her. I think Clark is going to get out of the clinch, or she's going to turn it in her favor, and she's going to land some of those hard knees, and she's going to put Paige against the wall. That'll be tight, but I think the defining moment of this matchup will be the distance striking, with Clark using those low kicks, with her using her combinations and the fakes to really draw out Paige's offense and get her off balance. And my prediction, it could be a split again, but my prediction is Jessica Rose Clark to defeat Paige VanZant by split decision. In the co-main event of the evening, we've got a matchup, and I don't like saying things like this, but hey, maybe I need to be a little more controversial to get those views up just a bit. This arguably looks like a has-been in a former champion, taking on a never was, and a guy that has a ton of potential and just seems like he's never going to get there. I'll let you figure out who those two descriptions illuminate. We have in the middleweight division the 11th ranked Uriah Primetime Hall, 14 wins and 8 losses, taking on the former light heavyweight champion, the 12th ranked Vitor the Phenom Belfort, 26 wins, 13 losses, and 1 no contest. Now Hall is coming off a much needed win. He had lost 3 in a row, and he lost the opening round badly against Krzysztof Jotko before he rallied and took him out. Belfort had 3 straight losses, one of them becoming a no contest to Kelvin Gastelum. We know he's at the end of his career, but he is coming off a win over Nate Marquardt, who just ended his career via retirement. He defeated Marquardt by decision at UFC 212. Now, both men physically 6 feet tall, 5-inch reach advantage for Uriah Hall. He's got a long reach on him. And he is also 7 years younger than Belfort. So that's worth noting as well. Now, Vitor, his style is not built for longer fights, and I always start fights breakdowns about Vitor talking with this. His cardio is a major liability. He's coming off his first decision victory since 2007 when he wasn't even in the UFC. It was just a minor promotion back when he was kind of floating in obscurity, waiting for that opportunity to spring back into relevancy. He's a quality over quantity type of fighter, not a ton of volume. He attacks in bursts, looking to unload and finish fights quickly. He still has some power in his hands, even though it hasn't been as noticeable recently. He's got some good power in his hands, good power in his kicks as well. You know, we saw some issues when he fought Mousasi. He was getting backed up and really the cage cut off. He was under fire constantly, and he was attacking, but simply got overwhelmed, just in a rough spot. And he has criticized himself a lot for not being more aggressive, not going first, not attacking. He did better against Marquardt. Nate obviously is a shell of his former self as well, but Vitor took advantage of that and got the victory. You know, when you look at Vitor's recent defeats, they have come predominantly on the mat. TKOs and submission losses where he just gets overwhelmed on the floor, can't defend, and eventually gets finished. The Kelvin Gastelum defeat turned no contest was the first time we actually saw him get absolutely hammered on the feet in a long time. And yeah, he got taken out, knocked out in that matchup. Also, got to be a little bit of a red flag. He was unable to knock out Nate Marquardt, which is a bit of concern. We obviously know this is post-TRT, Vitor Belfort, any other substances he was using to look the way he was. He looks like someone has sucked the meat out of his body, if you will, to get him to this current state. Now, you look at Uriah Hall, and the guy has a ton of potential, but it's just not clicking. Hall has significant power, 9 wins by knockout, no denying that. He used a shocking straight right to knock out Krzysztof Jotko, put him on Queer Street really quick, put him down and just it was over in a one-sided fight that was not going Hall's way. At the same time, when he does have issues pulling the trigger and letting his offense going, being aggressive and finding success, and that's a major issue. He tends to sit back, look for openings. Sometimes they never come, and even when they do come, he doesn't attack, and he waits, and he waits. And this is a major, major issue. Because he waits for those openings, he can be outworked. He can lose decisions. We saw it against Rafael Natal. We saw it against Robert Whittaker. He just gets... His opponent lands more strikes, better strikes, and he loses the fight, even though he might be the better striker. Now, when he is doing well, he offers a wide variety of striking techniques, a ton of kicks and punches. He's very quick, hard to defend against when he does engage, because it's his speed, it's his reach, and it's variety. You don't know what you're going to deal with next, what crazy technique he's going to throw at you to hurt you. And it's worth noting, Vitor Belfort predominantly fights as a southpaw, and that's going to open him up for that back leg high kick that Hall's going to look to throw and potentially knock him out with. We also have seen Hall knocked out 3 times. Most recently against Derek Brunson. So that has to be a concern against Vitor Belfort if Vitor is able to catch him on the chin and put him down. He was nearly finished by Jocko as well. He showed a lot of heart sticking around in that matchup, but still he was in big-time trouble in that fight. But again, he showed a lot of heart. He came out. He showed in round 2. He opened up with a lot of kicks, very quick, pressured Jocko, and eventually put him away. Jocko was using a lot of pressure to beat the technique of Hall, to shut down some of those offensive attacks he can offer. And I think that's one of the keys to beating him, is get on top of him, don't let him breathe, and he can't engage, he can't set up, and then he's rendered far less effective. Hall is also vulnerable on the mat, which goes hand in hand with pressure. Top position pressure is just as good as forward pressure when it comes to shutting down a talented striker, if not better. But Vitor, not likely. Vitor might look to take him down, but really I don't expect him to come in and shoot. I would be shocked. Belfort, ultimately, his style is not going to capitalize on Hall's lack of volume. And he needs to land that big shot to put him down. He possibly could. He hasn't exactly shown his ability to knock guys out recently. The speed, the reach, and the variety of striking techniques will be the difference for Hall. I think Belfort's chin is gone. I think he's got some major issues. And my prediction is Uriah Hall to defeat Vitor Belfort by knockout. In the main event of the evening, we move to the UFC's featherweight division as long-time contender 9th-ranked Jeremy Lil Heathen Stevens, 26 wins and 14 losses, takes on the 13th-ranked Dooho Choi, the Korean Superboy, currently holding a record of 14 wins and 2 losses. Now, Stevens is coming off a big win over Gilbert Melendez. He had lost 2 in a row, and he's only got 1 victory over his last 4 fights. Choi's coming off the second career loss. Second time he's ever lost his career, if you will. The first since 2010, so it's been a long-ass time since the guy suffered a defeat. He is now 3-1 inside the octagon. Physically, Choi 2 inches taller. Stevens will have a 1-inch reach advantage, and the Korean fighter is 5 years younger than Lil Heathen. Now, Choi is coming off an unreal Fight of the Year fight against Cub Swanson. Does it make him better? Does it make him more tentative? He said he'd be better. I tend to believe that. He seemed to be motivated. That's a positive positive attitude coming out of a fight like that, and I like that. Choi is an absolutely dynamic striker. He's not flashy. He's not throwing all these ridiculous spinning techniques. He's not throwing all these over-the-top, kicking arsenal. He is just very aggressive, very dangerous. I like the word dynamic. He throws good footwork, head movement, slips and rips, does a nice job there. He likes to sit in the pocket and attack, maintains solid pressure. He's a precision striker, not a lot of wasted movement. He's just boom, boom, in and out, attack and retract. He moves away well when his opponent presses forward. He does tend to carry his chin a little bit high, and that got him hurt a couple times against Cub Swanson, but still he's very good overall in tight. He throws a nice left hook, straight right combination. Overall, all of his combinations are very dangerous. He hurt Sam Cecilia with a hard right and some uppercuts, and he really pumps a left jab in there routinely that can do a lot of damage. Now, we did see Cub Swanson have a lot of success in the second and third round. I would, and a lot of people are attributing Cubs a little more unorthodox style. He mixes boxing and capoeira together, and that gave Choi some issues, both offensively and defensively. He was hurt by Swanson during some brawls. It was back and forth. Again, he was willing to trade, and he got the short end of the stick in that fight. As far as his defensive grappling, it has been tested. It's fairly sound. He has been taken down but gets back up, shows good defensive takedown. Good defensive takedown game overall. He has, on occasion, thrown a flying knee on a takedown attempt, and that's something to watch for. And Stevens, yeah, he can wrestle, and that wouldn't be shocking to see him attempt one at some point in this fight. Now, Jeremy Stevens absolutely has power, not just in his hands. He's knocked out guys with head kicks and flying knees and all the such. He can end a fight with one punch. Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, he can spend the entire matchup chasing the knockout, getting outclassed, and really struggling to find a home for his offense. He's at his best, though, and he can be varied, and he did a decent job against Gilbert Melendez in that fight. He has a bomb of a right hand, which is his big weapon, and he'll use it as a straight right, will work as a counter to low kicks. But when he throws his own kicks, he can do a lot of damage. He'll throw body kicks and low kicks. He had success against Gilbert Melendez, hurting with those kicks, and really took his base away and really won the fight on the strength of those kicks. But again, he needs to mix it up, needs to be a varied striker, cannot be willing to just sit back and look for that knockout. One thing a lot of people don't really attribute or credit Jeremy Stevens with is his decent cardio. Yeah, he's not going to run start to finish like a Frankie Edgar will or a Max Holloway, but he's got pretty good cardio, and he can go 5 rounds. He went 5 rounds with Cub Swanson. He's not really known for it. His power carries well, though, deeper into fights. It's still there. Again, you go to the Dennis Bermudez matchup, it was a very grueling fight, and he was still right there to score that knockout when it needed to be there. Now, as far as his offense is concerned, he has trouble when fighters throw those fakes and feints at him that kind of get him off. He kind of starts and stops, and he stutters with his offense and becomes far less effective. As I said, Stevens, it wouldn't shock me to see him incorporate some wrestling here. Choi isn't easy to take down, so that might discourage him eventually. Choi's the much more accurate striker. He can be hurt, but he survived in that Cub-Swanson matchup. Stevens has power. He needs to remain technical, vary his attack, and avoid getting drawn into a brawl. But that's what he tends to like. That's what he tends to be drawn to, is just a type of firefight where guys are throwing hands and hoping somebody survives. And it might work out to his better. He might land that blow that changes this fight entirely. But I think Choi's going to use his jab and that footwork to routinely outposition and land on Stevens and hurt him where he can't do damage to him. And, eventually he'll start coming with the power strikes. And my prediction is Dooho Choi to defeat Jeremy Stevens by knockout. So those are my 4 main card predictions for UFC Fight Night 124. All of my prelim picks, as per usual, will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. I apologize for my voice. It certainly isn't what it normally is. I also apologize for the delay in getting this out. It's been a busy week. I will get on the prelim predictions and the bet packs ASAP. Remember, this is a Sunday event. It's not a Saturday event, so we have an extra day in there, but still, it's nice to have things finished and done with. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it. We got a heavy schedule between the rest of January and all of February before we get into a little bit later times in March. But either way, I hope you enjoy the fights. They should be fantastic. And take care, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Hi.